Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sales Without the BS. I'm Troy Harrison, the Sales Navigator, and this is your tour through what else? Sales Without the BS. Got a good show for you today. Our main issue is going to be something a lot of people are talking about. Got some pretty cool stuff in from my feed, and then wait all the way to the end because I've got a quick win for you that's really going to help you on your sales calls. But before we get into it, remember, like this video, subscribe, it helps a lot. Share it out if you think it's useful, and hey, drop me a comment. I'm always open to some discussion and debate. So, yesterday I was having lunch with a former client of mine, and they asked me a question I get asked a lot nowadays. And the truth of it is my answer is changing. The client said, Troy, what effect do you think AI is really going to have on the sales profession? And look, I've been asked this question for the past 2 years, and my answers have changed because the truth is what AI is and what it can be and what it can do, it's a moving target. And so I'm going to make a prediction right now that may not age well, okay? But you guys know me by now. I'm never shy of making a prediction. Here's that prediction. I think that the use of AI in what I call in front of the curtain activities, and by front of the curtain, I mean customer facing, prospect facing, those things that people consume. Whether it's customer contact, whether it's social media, whether it's written content. I think that the use of AI in front of the curtain activities is going to peak out sometime in either 2026 or in 2027, and then I think it's going to recede back to a sustainable plateau, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Reason number one is AI suspicion. You see it all the time. I've talked about it even in Sales Without the BS. And what that is people seeing AI usage as inauthentic, as disingenuous somehow, as let's call it what it is, fake. And you can see some examples of that. Anytime you see a video of something remarkable on the internet, by about the third comment, somebody's saying, well, that's just AI, even if it's something that's real. I actually saw a video, a very short clip, a few days ago. I take that back. It was a picture of a very unusual race car that raced at Daytona in 1979. And I know that it was real because I was there. I saw this car, but it was a weird looking car. And somebody goes, oh, that's got to be some AI picture. Nope, no, it sure wasn't. A guy named Jerry Cook in New York actually built that car that way. But that's becoming a hair trigger knee jerk response. And it's being driven, I've talked about this before, by not by older generations, but by younger generations. The highest level of AI skepticism at 62% is Gen Z, the 18 to 28-year-old cohort that's coming into the workforce now. So I think AI skepticism is going to grow and not shrink. So what that means for us is that we've got to be really careful about our usage of front of the curtain AI activities. Think it through really hard and ask yourself, when you're putting a social media post out there, or when you're putting a blog post out there, or when you're writing copy for your website, ask yourself, is this anything that any adult human being working for your company would ever actually say in those words? And if not, think it through, because I think people are going to value more and more authentic content. So that's front of the curtain. You'll notice that I didn't say that AI usage behind the curtain was going to decrease. I think AI usage behind the curtain is going to increase, and that's because there are so many uses behind the curtain. When I say behind the curtain, I mean those things that aren't necessarily customer facing, but make our human activity in front of the curtain that much more effective. And I'll give you the example. A couple of things that AI are really, really good at is research and data crunching. And that was my response to my client yesterday, my former client. I said, let me give you an example of how good AI can be behind the curtain. And I pulled out my phone and pulled up my Claude app. You guys know I like Claude for content generation, and I've been using Claude a lot more for copy editing, which I love. But I pulled out Claude because it was the only one whose app I had on my phone. And I said, I'm getting ready to have a sales call on this person, meaning my former client, with this company. And I used the context current title. He's recently got a promotion. And I said, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to research his background. I'd like you to research his company. I'd like to tell you to tell me 3 top industry trends that are going to have a bearing on their sales picture and their sales force. It took me about, I don't know, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds to type this in. I'm not a quick thumb typist. And I showed him the prompt. I said, here's what I'm going to ask Claude to do. So there's no secrets. And I hit send, and in 60 seconds, I had a pretty long dossier on him, on the company, and it accurately identified some industry trends. Now, I could have taken it farther, and I said, give me some questions I should ask in this sales call, but I didn't need to. I turned around, and I showed it to him. It took him about 2 minutes to read, and he looked up, and he said, wow, nailed it. I said, yeah. I said, and you saw how long that took me. And I told him, I said, there weren't any surprises to me because I've worked with you guys. But to someone who is calling on you or calling on someone else, man, that's just essential. Now, here's his challenge. His sales team isn't made up of people who are going to use this. His sales team is pretty much tech backwards, not tech forwards. And that leads me to the next thing, which is, and by the way, I handicapped myself when I did this search, and I'll tell you why. I handicapped myself in a few ways. First of all, I didn't do it at a keyboard at my desk like I'm sitting at right now, and I'm a much better keyboard typist than I am a thumb typist. Sorry for the jazz hands there. The second way I handicapped myself was that I didn't put the research into the context of a thread or a project on Claude where it had all the information about me and what I do. So I was making Claude fly blind just a little bit. And then the third way I handicapped myself was I use Claude. Perplexity is actually my favorite research tool nowadays. I just didn't have my Perplexity app loaded on my phone. And guess what's on my to-do list for this afternoon? But the point of all this is that in about 2 minutes, I was able to create and digest research that would have taken me an hour to do manually. And I certainly could have next leveled it. I said, give me some questions to ask. What are some offerings of services that I have they're most likely to be interested in? I could have gone a long ways down the road. And think about how much more efficient that makes a sales call, because even if all it does is cover the basics, give you the basic information about this person and this company, those are questions that would have taken me, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes in a sales call to ask if I was going in ice cold. And so now, instead of asking these 101 level questions, I can advance it. I can use my time to ask 201 level questions. And I don't have to tell you that customer face time is getting harder and harder to get at nowadays. So ultimately, the guidance I gave to him was, because he's looking for a new sales leader. I said, one of the things that you need to ask any sales leader is if they're familiar with this technology. Because I got to be honest with you, right now, this is something that is fairly remarkable and will really move a sales call a long ways ahead of your competitors. It's an opportunity to really steal a march on your competitors. It's an opportunity to make an impression on your customers that you've got your game together, which that's something customers want to know. I think in 2 years, this is just going to be table stakes. Customers are going to expect you to walk in with this level of knowledge so that, man, you can get right on it. And we've talked before about how millennials and Gen Zs are business first when they entertain salespeople. And this, again, gives you an opportunity to get a long ways down that road. So my biggest advice to you right now is whether you're a sales leader, manager, VP sales, whatever, or whether you're a salesperson, don't care how old or young you are, get used to using this stuff. It's worth 5 minutes for every sales call to make it that much more efficient. And quite honestly, it's really, really silly if you don't. And like I said, as I've said, the pace of this technology is moving so quickly The what right now is a competitive advantage. Again, 2 years, I think it's going to be table stakes. It's just going to be a basic expectation from your customers. So you might as well get used to it right now. And here's a next level on this even. There are some CRMs, I know that HubSpot has a Copilot powered by ChatGPT, and I haven't played with it much. Shame on me. And that's probably because I do use Claude so much. But my guess is, because ChatGPT and Claude can do research. I just like Perplexity a little bit better for it. But my guess is that you can probably use the AI Copilot in a CRM to do a lot of that research with the background information of what you have. Claude allows projects, and so does Perplexity, by the way. They both have ways that you can upload a lot of data and documents about you and what you do for a living to give all of your research context. And I strongly encourage you, man, get used to doing it right now. Whether you're doing it on a laptop, whether you're doing it on a phone, get used to doing it. And that is the no BS take on AI and where it is right now and where I think it's heading. And based on where I think it's heading, I think you need to start getting ready now. All right, time for, from the emails that I get, one of your favorite parts of this show, and certainly one of my favorite parts of this show, and that is from my feed. There's been a lot of fun stuff coming across my feed lately, and we're going to talk about them. The first thing we're going to talk about is actually not from my feed. It's from my inbox on LinkedIn. And it is an example of some of the worst stuff you can do on LinkedIn. And this is a LinkedIn message, sponsored LinkedIn message. So this person paid for this. Boost Supervisor FMLA confidence with free training. Hello, Troy. Managing employee leave under the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act is a critical task, one that can easily lead to costly consequences if not done properly. That's why it's so important that your frontline managers and your supervisors understand the ins and outs of FMLA administration. I'm not going to go through the rest of this. We just talked about having your act together when you approach customers. This is an example of the extreme of not having your act together. Darlene here has absolutely no flipping idea what I do, how I do it. I have no managers. I have no supervisors. I have no employees. You are looking at the entire staff of Troy Harrison, the sales navigator, and even then some of the staff meetings have a lot of conflict in them. This is a wasted, not only is this a wasted message, it's a negative impression message. When I get a message like that, not only do I disregard it, I actually regard it in the sense that this person is so uninformed and unprepared. Even if I could buy from her, there's no way that I would. Even if I could recommend her out, there's no way that I could, because this is just as lazy as it gets. So when you are sending out cold approach messages, make sure they're topical, make sure they're targeted, and whenever possible, make sure they speak specifically to something that person is or does. All right, next up on From My Feed. Let's see here. Okay, here's a good one. And this actually goes to a technique that I train a lot. This was posted by a guy. He said, recently I was talking to a sales representative for a facility management company. I met this individual at my new facility and explained to him what I needed. I also admitted to him that I had no intention of shopping this around unless he gave me a reason to. I also admitted to him that this is new to me and I've never had to purchase facility management services. With that said, I've been inside enough facilities to know enough. Okay. Victory is in hand here. This salesperson has a deal as long as they don't screw it up. This is the dream for us, right? To have a customer that is so candid with us and is willing to single source a buying journey that, oh my God, so this salesperson couldn't possibly screw this up, right? Wait, I asked him to provide me 3 proposals, what I'm asking for, what we could eventually use, and the Taj Mahal of services. In other words, give me good, better, best. I train on this all the time. When in doubt, as far as your service or product level, give people good, better, best. Matter of fact, if you really want to be effective, make it best, better, good. Lead with the best approach and then take away from each one. You'll be shocked at how many people buy the best approach or the better approach that probably would have bought the good approach in the first place. I receive an email from him informing me that he sent me the proposal and I need to sign it and send it back. That single proposal came. Single as in one. The proposal contains several light items in it we never discussed. I wouldn't have even put them in a Taj Mahal package. I didn't sign or send anything back. Trust was immediately lost, and God, how much trust did this person invest? And I'm not willing to revisit it. He gave me a reason to shop it around. Long story short, listen and pay attention. Present solutions that meet their needs. If you want to offer other ideas that may be beneficial, you should, but never assume or put into a contract that was never discussed. Trust is everything. Oh my God. You talk about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. This is the example right here. Listen to your customers, guys. That's all you got to do. Ask good questions. Your customers will give you good info, especially considering the trust this guy had. He was very candid and open, and then make your proposal direct and responsive to the customer's needs. This guy had a win. All he had to do was send the customer 3 options and the customer and say, sign and send back whichever one you think fits best right now. Customer probably would have signed the good and he'd have had a piece of business. Might have signed the best or the better, he'd have had a better piece of business. Instead, he screwed it up and turned a single vendor opportunity into a multi-vendor opportunity. Not well done. All right, next up from my feed. This is a pretty good one. I'm not sure it's a completely on target. We'll talk about this, but this is a pretty good one. This is something I learned the hard way in sales, that rapport basically means nothing. Because if all you're trying to build is rapport, you're forgetting the reason that they reached out in the first place. They didn't call to make a new friend. They called you because they need help. Sales isn't about small talk, it's about service. It's about asking the right questions to understand your real situation. Some basic questions here. What problems are you dealing with right now? What made you call us today? Would you say this is something urgent? Where are you financially with this? People buy when they feel understood, not when they feel like you're nice. Serve them properly, and the sale becomes a byproduct of value, not rapport. This is something I've been hammering on for a few years. The rapport-only salesperson, the good time Charlie salesperson, is becoming obsolete. Not even obsolescent, but obsolete. And this solve the problems first mentality is driven, it's aging in. It's driven, like I said, by millennials and Zs. And now, I don't think rapport is worthless. I think genuine rapport built on genuine interest in the other person is a great launching pad to a sales call. And I'm going to give you my favorite question to ask to build rapport right now. Write this down, okay? And that question is this. Tell me how you came to be in this position. In other words, tell me your professional story. You'd be amazed at how much stuff people will tell you. And you build rapport just by shutting your mouth, listening to them, and tuning in. People love to talk about themselves. People love to tell their story. And if you give people a forum for telling their story, you build a lot of rapport through asking a question, listening to the answer, and then you can go back in and start talking. And actually, you should go ask more questions, but gain an understanding of the customer's situation, solve their problem, and then, by the way, you become somebody that they take a personal interest in. Again, one of those things that's aging in with the millennials and Zs. So that's from my feed for this week. Hope you had as much fun with it as I did. And for those of you who have hung on this long, or hell, let's be honest, for those of you who have fast forwarded, time for your quick win. Your quick win is this. We've talked a lot about asking questions and listening this week. And the technique that has worked the best for me to help do that is very simple. Write out the questions you plan to ask beforehand. Have a written cheat sheet of questioning. The reason for this is very, very simple. If you don't have to think about what you're going to ask next or what you're going to say next, you can be focused in on what your customer is saying, and the words that are coming from their mouth are more important than you. It's not. I've made thousands of sales calls. I've never once had a customer said, hey, you got the questions written down. That's no fair. Customers appreciate you being on game, having your act together, and when you have a game plan for the sales call, and you can vary that call. You can skip questions in there, but do so intentionally. You can add questions in there, but have a game plan for where you want to go. That allows you to be in the moment, engaged, and tuned in. And by the way, that's something artificial intelligence really can't do. So, all right, gang, that has been Sales Without the BS for this week. Hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as I've enjoyed doing it. Remember, like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, and hit the little bell down below that gives you alerts as to when I upload new content. It always helps. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. I'm Troy Harrison, the Sales Navigator.